Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of Never Offside with Julie and Kat. Today, we are going to be joined by our most requested guest via our listeners, the first female hockey coach in NHL history. It's Coach Jessica Campbell, so we are very excited for that. Also, happy birthday, Jules.
Thank you. I turned 36 yesterday, guys.
What'd you do?
Well, my actual birthday was just schlepping kids around to baseball practice and whatnot. Jeff's on the road, so it's kind of just, I don't know, it was just another day. But Friday, my girlfriends came over and we actually went and did a hip hop dance class.
Oh my God, I love
and it was a blast. I want to join dance classes or something, which I want to be on Dancing with the Stars one day, so maybe this was my first step.
Well, you sent me that video, and you were a lot better than I thought you were going to be. No shade. But those classes look really hard, and I always get intimidated when someone asks me to go to that. So props to you. You did a really good job.
We were great, and I loved it.
You told me a little bit about the luncheon, but, speaking of fun.
Yeah, I did have a filled weekend. It wasn't, it was really nice. Saturday, the Red Wings wives and all the sports wives across the four teams here in Detroit were invited by the Pistons to this women's empowerment lunch. It was their first annual. They've created this group. It's actually really cool, called Detroit Femme Collective, and it's really a kickoff to something super awesome, and it's just gonna be huge. And they really just want to bring the women of these sports teams, from upper management to support staff to players' wives, all together, and create this group that just connects on different levels and for different initiatives. This month we brought donations towards a women's shelter for Women's in History Month, and it was really, really neat. And we were talking about it, Kat, and I'm like, you gotta do this in the Bay Area.
I'm inspired by this. I love it so much because part of my job at the Dodgers was kind of connecting, the different teams, Lakers, Clippers, Kings, Dodgers. So I love this idea from the family aspect. It's just getting to know, even just making friends in your sports community. It's just such a cool idea, and teaming up for charities. It's just.
Yeah, it was so fun, and it just humanizes it again, right? I'm sitting there visiting with some of the Pistons wives, and they're like, we should do a game swap. We come to a game with you guys and you guys come to a game with us, just to have different perspective of their thing. And like you said, getting to know, for us, it's different. This is home, but every other year we've played in, it's our home away from home, and you really have to dig in, and it builds community, and it's really special. And I feel very fortunate that the Pistons have, really taken this on. And I learned the Pistons organization is has so many women in high up positions there, and they're really leaning into it. And I just can't say enough things. And I actually spoke on a panel at the luncheon, which was again, one of those pinch me moments of yes, I guess I do have things to share, owning a female business and, our podcast and things like this. So really cool. And I'm all for it. And I'm willing to help you in the Bay Area to come help your first annual.
I know. This is me summoning, the 49ers, the Giants, the Warriors, the Earthquakes. I want to make this happen. I'm going to bring this up to the Sharks management, and I'm going to try and make a Bay Area, what would you even, member?
I don't know, but you guys could do it in Napa, and it could be cool.
Speaking of breaking the ice, get us all on a bus to Napa and see.
Yeah.
See,
Sky's the limit.
I know. I was curious if any of the girls had told you that they hadn't been to a hockey game yet. You know what I mean? Did anyone say that?
Yeah. I think the majority of most of them have not been to a hockey game. So it's we have to make the crossover happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's super cool. And I just met so many cool people, and I learned about like the NBA's G League, which is like the AHL, and they're right here like at Wayne State, and they're like, you have to take the boys to the game. You can essentially sit courtside, and it's really cool.
That's cool. All right, Bay Area. Let's make this happen. I actually have a funny story I was going to tell you about the Bay Area. So this week I did an interview with NBC Bay Area, and in the middle of the interview, the reporter was like, who has never met me before. He was like, "So I saw that you have 2 teenagers. Can you tell me about that?" And I was like, what? Like, excuse me? Like, and
No.
yeah. And I was like, first I was like really taken aback, but then I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
If you do a Twitter search of Tyler, you're going to see that he has 2 teenage boys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I was like, oh my God, he probably just went on social media.
Will and Macklin are your children.
Correct. So I literally said to him, I was like, oh my God, I think you're mistaking this like ongoing joke that we're parents of Will and Macklin. And he was like, oh my God, sorry. And I was like, no.
Oh
I mean,
my
it
God,
makes
that's
sense.
funny.
I
Well,
know. And
it's
well,
only our hopes are getting closer to them actually getting bunk beds in your house next year.
well, speaking of, so then Will Smith's mom was at the game on Saturday right after I've done this interview. And I told her, I was like, oh my God, like literally it's gone to the fact that reporters are thinking that I'm your son's mom. And she was dying because she like loves, the funny stuff on social. And then after, Ty surprised me with all the guys coming over to our house for a game night after the game because it was a great game. And I told those 2 in their potential new house about it. So it was
Did
just
they go look for a room? Did they go pick their rooms?
No, but they're getting more comfortable in the house. So
I love it.
Yeah, so it's gotten to that point. So.
All right, and up next, we are going to chat with Jessica Campbell just about her journey to the NHL, what skills she found kind of supported her resume, if you would, to get her there, her celebrity doppelganger, and also what she does pregame to just kind of separate herself from the game and to just disconnect. That's up next.
We are back, and we are joined by our guest. She is the first female coach in NHL history. She's the assistant coach of the Seattle Kraken, and we had so many people asking for her to come on, so we are so excited to see you. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach Jessica Campbell.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited.
Well, we're honored to have you here. This is so cool. I feel like the former athletes and us are like just totally fangirling over you. And, we've been doing our research over the weekend, and we've polled our audience, and you have been the most requested guest by far, like since we started this. So It is so cool to have you.
Yeah, so what Julie said, we did like an Instagram poll, and we got an overwhelming response for you. It was crazy and so cool, and just so many different ages, of people. So just overall, like you're getting so much attention, and how are you managing that, and how does it feel?
Gosh, it's a loaded question because ultimately I'm just doing my job every day and like love what I get to do. I've always been in this game, and hockey's been just a big part of my life, much like it's controlled probably your guys' lives too. So I think waking up every day with just the privilege of getting to do what I love, and knowing that I'm inspired by, I think, the greater privilege of this opportunity that's beyond the game. Obviously, I think it puts added pressure, and it's sometimes I feel like I'm a little bit under a microscope, but I try to really shift that into a good mental frame where I see everything and try to see everything as an opportunity, because there's been such positive, overwhelming support. And like you said, it's been all ages, girls, women, young boys that I even come across. And obviously everyone in the game is just been, I think, celebrating this milestone, but the balance of managing my actual job and keeping my focus and priorities on doing my job, but then trying to find the moments along the way to kind of like take it in and then connect with the community, connect with fans, and connect with people that come through social opportunities to just share what the journey's been like, this being one of them.
Do you have anybody? Sorry, I'm like, do you have anybody kind of like that you lean on, or like that you know, maybe mentors, or because this is just like such a big, like you said, under a microscope. And like, is there anybody that you chat with, like bounce things off of, anything like that?
Yeah, someone I try to lean on probably the most is Cassie Campbell. She's just been a constant mentor for me throughout my career, but even more so now is just someone who kind of went through those early days in broadcasting as a woman, and a very qualified, capable speaker in this game and mind for the game of hockey. And she kind of, I think, had to go through some similar probably experiences that perhaps I'm in now, but in a different magnitude or in a different role behind the bench. So she's just someone that, you know, win or lose, she's a phone call or a text away, and we obviously cross quite often. But I think it's critical to find strong female supports, because as much as I feel very much supported in Seattle and our staff's been great, I think it's still very different for them to understand like what it would be like for me to be in this position, because they don't put on heels and and wear the same shoes as much as our job is the same. I think there's different emotions that I'm experiencing that they do a great job of supporting me, but having a strong female role model, someone I've looked up to, has been huge for me to have that to balance, some of the conversations you might want to just keep private. I think that's been huge for me to go through it and navigate it with someone else.
And your family and friends reacting to this. I saw your hometown, there's a billboard now, right?
Yeah, I just was actually on a FaceTime with my brother on the plane getting here, and he's like, now every time I run the 5 kilometer perimeter, that's clearly how small it is. Your damn face.
Just
But
a reminder to call your sister.
I said exactly. That means we need to keep in touch more. But yeah, that's been pretty surreal, because you never go through life ever picturing that for yourself. But our town is so small; it's a little hockey community, and just the milestone. I think of the young kids back home that you know, had I been able to see this for myself at 5, 10 years old playing hockey, gosh, I mean, I think I would have dreamed even bigger than, just loving the game and seeing where it could take me. So just to know that there's, a piece back home for other kids to potentially imagine dreams beyond what they, think can exist is, I think, just what that means for our town.
Who was the first person you called when you got the call about the job?
Oh man, I called my mom and dad pretty much immediately, and it wasn't news yet, obviously publicly, but I had been told by Dan, our head coach, that the job was mine if I wanted it. Obviously, I wanted the job, but when I called home, I just immediately started crying, happy tears. But my parents thought something was wrong, so immediately went into like parent protect mode, like, "Are you okay?" And of course, I was okay. And pretty quickly, we were all crying, and yeah, it was pretty surreal, because I think I've been working at this, and I've been, in the last couple of years, the grind of the American Hockey League, as you guys understand, the number of games, like we're just always playing, and we had 2 long playoff runs the last 2 years, so I never really had a huge off season, which is a good thing. I understand in this league, but I had very
It's taxing.
yeah, it's taxing. It's taxing emotionally too and mentally, but I never had a ton of time to go home and, see family, and those windows are really small and you cherish what you do get. So just being able to quickly, I was obviously in Seattle when I got the news, and I was at development camp. So I was like right in it in my AHL role. And then like quickly overnight, I went from AHL coach to NHL coach. And yeah, it was a lot of tears, a big celebration, and yeah, a lot of just, wow, this is happening. This is real. And here we go. So many people, friends, and family get to come on this journey with me, and the dream was kind of realized for everyone.
That's
So
so
cool.
cool.
We saw you say that the first game was like your wedding, your hockey wedding.
I
day.
loved that.
Yeah, I love
And
that
I
too.
love we were passing stuff back and forth just over the weekend, kind of, getting our bearings and everything, and deciding what to wear for like this big debut. It's part of it. And like, Kat and I were discussing it. It's like you're under a microscope, but for so many reasons, like not only the first female coach and also the youngest, I think, in the NHL from our research. Bob, you can fact check us. Um, but another tidbit that's like mind blowing. And then, players, they're always focused on the players' fashion and things like that. And women, unfortunately or fortunately, it's part of us and it's part of our, it's part of our identity. It's part of our story. You get to show your personality with it. How have you had fun, with that, with it, being, you're a professional, but you're looking damn good doing it too.
Oh gosh. I mean, you know what? I think especially fashion is a form of expression. I think it's for me, it's always been something even as a player, I guess in my own ways tried to be fashion forward, but um, yeah, obviously the home opener night, and it's funny because a lot of people are, bringing up my suits and what I choose to wear, and I'm like, you know, I just think how you present yourself is a reflection of, you know, what you believe about yourself, and I think confidence comes in that, and it's like the cliche, like look good, feel good, play good. Like you really how you show up and how you present yourself is an expression of how that confidence I think is felt. And it is an odd thing that we are unfortunately potentially put on a different type of microscope as women, and that's evaluated. And like I've gotten everything from like you look so professional, amazing, to like you look like you're ready to go out to the club. Like that stuff gets like tweeted. Of course, I like try to avoid all of the nonsense, but social media is a beautiful thing when you get to connect with all the amazing, but there's also whatever out there. So it's funny because like, I've just always tried, especially in the last 5 years, like entering more into this side of it where I am the only female and I don't have someone to potentially turn to of like how do I dress? How do we show up? Because what's appropriate, what's not. And I think just trying to authentically express myself that I do think you can be feminine and female, and that can be displayed in fashion and doesn't, I don't have to wear suit and tie and try to fit in. I'm not going to look like one of them, so why would I try to change who I am to express myself a certain way to fit the mold when I already don't look the part? And I think that can be a beautiful thing, and it shouldn't be criticized or judged either way. It's just this is how I'm showing up, this is who I am, and I'm not going to shift who I am, especially in terms of fashion, to try to fit a mold that I never really fit in to begin with. So here we are now, and just gonna keep carrying on as I am.
It's funny. The Kraken posted a picture of you in the hallway coming in, and a fan commented, "Petition for way more Coach Campbell fit checks," and I got thousands of likes. So
Well,
that made me happy.
I'm gonna find that and sign that petition too.
Yeah, I'm gonna like that too.
it's hard
Um,
to keep suits, to be honest. It's really hard.
yeah.
Like it
Well,
came in style a few years ago, but it's like it's hard to kind of find the real. I have to get tailored suits now because it's hard to find them.
Well, and I feel like the men coaches don't really think about what they're wearing that much, and nor do we actually care.
yeah.
So it's it's great
I'm
that
proud to
you're.
always have the biggest suitcase, and I chirp some of the guys that have the same size as me because I'm like, what do you
Yeah.
do?
What?
Those
Exactly.
you guys got your dress shoes. You wear the same. So I give them a hard time when they try to come at me about the size of my suitcase.
I mean, Ty can go on the road for like 5 games and have just like one little carry on, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy. Your underwear in there? That's what I always ask them. Please tell me you got fresh socks and whatever. They're
totally.
cute.
So funny. Well, another thing that I loved that you have said before is that sometimes it's a fan's first game, especially young female fans, and the first thing that they're seeing is a normal bench with a female coach. So, how many fans have you met with having their first game, and what have they said to you?
Oh man, it's been so many. Like, the magnitude of NHL games and just even fans that come behind the bench, especially in warm-ups. That's kind of the time where obviously I can connect with them and the ones that get there early, but it's been all ages. And in Seattle, we're still a pretty new and a very diverse hockey market. Um, and so I think hopefully we've won some new fans, hockey fans that, if this has meant something to them in our sports community. But yeah, the young girls, obviously that one hits me obviously the most. Just I get emotional, especially with we started the little friendship bracelet thing and the first time a little girl in Dallas, I think it was like game 3 or 4 for us early in the season, she did her whole like going to my first NHL TikTok game, like little video, and she had her bracelet, and that's what then kind of inspired me to do something more, to be able to kind of have a moment with fans where it's like this means something right now, and it's gonna mean hopefully something so much more to them after they process this, or they're old enough to maybe potentially process or go home and have the conversation with their mom, with their dad. um, but it's also, I think, means something for the young boys, also in the game, for them to be able to look at female leadership as just a normal thing, and that presence I think is important, because beyond hockey, whether it's sports or other industries, I think just normalizing that, like, even if you don't see yourself in a traditional space, like, you can still believe that it's possible to do it. Like, if you have the talent and the skill set and the ability, doesn't matter how different you are, you still have the permission from anyone, and yourself included, to believe that you can like walk through that door. It might not be easy, and that's kind of just what this year has felt like for me, is so many people have been like, you know, so proud and beaming with pride. But I've always been in the game. I've always been walking into boys' locker rooms at such a young age when there was no girls' teams, to then now obviously coaching on this side of it. I've always seen myself in this game. So there's little moments, and there's been hundreds of fans and all ages. I think even women, it's a celebration for women, too. And that's also been huge for me. It's just the amount of female support that I've had, because I think that's also really, really critical.
Something we always talk about together, me and Julie, is we love the different vibes of fan bases. And we've been to so many different teams, and we neither Jeff or Ty has played for Seattle. So what is the overall like vibe of the Seattle fans?
Oh, well, our fans are very diverse. They're, from all walks of life. I think some are new hockey fans, some are just big sports fans. Our whole city is very eclectic and unique and special in its own right. So, no one looks the same in the Seattle crowd. Not that anyone really looks the same in any crowd that you go to, but it's very interesting for me growing up in like small town Canadian hockey communities where, everybody's kind of live and breathe hockey where I'm from. And so like going home and playing in Winnipeg, like on as obviously the opposing side, but I felt like if that was a real like hockey market of people, and maybe because they were 50 of them were from my hometown that drove down in buses, but you feel it different. And I think that's what's really been cool for me to start in Seattle, knowing that, you know, even when I got hired with the Firebirds and working in the American League for 2 years, when I first took the job and walked into the arena, like they had already designed a female locker room, a coach's locker room space that no one was using, obviously, but like it was built into the potential growth of what the team could become. And I got emotional by that the first time, because I think it's just a testament to like the sports community, the city, the forward thinking of the team, the organization, of like what they could grow into becoming. And so that's been just like so widely received across our fan base. It gets so much support on social media from our Kraken fans. They get very defensive on anything that comes through that's negative.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
yeah, that's so cool that that wasn't an afterthought. That was the first thought before, you know.
Yeah, built into the blueprint. Really, really cool.
I
Nice.
want to go back to you were talking about confidence and just watching like the stories, like you growing up in a small town. You're the youngest of four. Um, I have four little boys, so I kind of have some theories about birth order, and I I want to hear
God,
your take.
God bless you, by the way.
Yeah,
Legit.
yeah. It's they are currently hopefully going to stay quiet watching a show right now throughout this. The baby's in bed. The baby had to go to bed during this, but I, I've just been thinking about your overwhelming sense of confidence, and I think as a mother raising kids, and I'm raising boys, but I always think about like, gosh, raising girls in this world, would feel a little bit different and a little bit more pressure. And I think about how my parents raised me, and similar to listening to your story, I grew up in sports. I grew up playing with boys all the time. To play with them, I had to be the best. I had to, and you had similar sentiments. Uh, I feel like that's what gave me the confidence, being the youngest and having to keep up. And thought, I never thought anything different. It was just like, that's all I knew to do. Do
Hmm.
you think that that is what has played into kind of your whole trajectory and has gotten you here? Because you didn't have a ceiling. You just were like, nope, this is it.
Yeah, honestly, and I don't think it's not necessarily true to say that the youngest doesn't have rules, but I feel like I, being the youngest of four in a small town where like we were just rink rats, and I was always, again, like you, keeping up with my brothers and my sister, obviously was a couple years older. Like we were always at hockey rinks and go 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 go. And when you have older brothers too, like I think they were always bugging me and like creating some like thick skin. They were trying to scare me in our bedroom before going to bed, like anything they could do to, get a laugh out of just having two little sisters, but also being like awesome rock star brothers who, you know wanted us to be strong and brave and, courageous in how we went about playing boys hockey. And being, me and my sister both played on boys teams. We were often the only girl on boys teams. So like, yes, I think in many ways going through that and being the youngest, I think you kind of have this like fearlessness of, life's in front of you, just chase it, tackle it. I definitely would attest to like a lot of my upbringing and the experience I had as being the youngest kid to just, you know, pursue whatever goal it was I wanted to do. My parents kind of gave me permission and support to play every school sport, get involved, and I was always a go-getter when it came to opportunities in school that was a challenge, whether it was like, just the leadership council, like little things like that. It was like I was kind of always encouraged to just do it. And um, yeah, the having siblings older than you, I think definitely pushes you to do more, want to be more mature. Um, but yeah, definitely, I like that you brought that up.
It's crazy
You
how full
fit.
circle, how
Yeah.
full circle everything turned out for
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Even it was funny, like my oldest brother too. Like I was little. Like I remember this moment. I was probably 8 years old, and I went to my first like summer hockey tournament, which we didn't have the opportunity to do that. But finally, when like a city team called and we went to this tournament, they gave us the like tournament um, action shots, right? That you can buy for way too much money, but you go home shots. And I remember when I got my first like summer action shot back, I brought it home and my brother was 18 and I was 10. He's like, "Yeah, you got to sign it." And I'm like, What does that mean?" And he like sat with me and taught me how to do an autograph. And my autograph is still the same to this day, but
Oh.
that you cherish, right? With having older siblings that, you know, that is there's still so much with me.
When did you go from the like your power skating business to coaching, like AHL coaching, like in the league?
I was coaching when I finished playing. I was doing both. I was coaching at a hockey academy, so I was behind the bench right away my first year out. But what I was really passionate about and what I was doing full time was teaching skating. and I'll try to give the like shortest version of this story because there's a lot of details and kind of the timelines of how this all happened because it did happen really abruptly and shifted really quickly. But I was behind the bench, so I knew, you know, the coaching aspect, the tactical behind the bench stuff was different than the player development, the skating and the skill stuff, which I was like most passionate about. And I did have, there was visibility around skating coaches in the NHL. And I'm sure you guys know this. Like, there's been mostly with figure skating backgrounds, there's been female skating coaches that have done a great job and still are working in the league. And so I kind of was like, if I want to work at the highest level of hockey, that might be my window in. And I love teaching skating. So I kind of was doing that as a priority, and then realized that I needed to start my own business if I wanted to kind of really build my portfolio of caliber of player. I was working with all levels, up to 19, even up, juniors, but the pro level players, that was kind of where I was aspiring to. And so when I started my business, I actually, oddly enough, got an opportunity to go coach a junior team and a pro team in Sweden for a very short-term contract. And it actually allowed me to quit my job to be able to start my business to kind of go do that. Even though it was a short-term contract, I went there with kind of everything to gain, nothing to lose. Like, I'm going to go work there with a bunch of pro players internationally. This is great resume building for me. I already know my method, my approach, my style of teaching. It's just more getting the hands-on experience. And when I came home from after those 4 months, I was offered a full-time coaching contract to go back the next season, but then COVID hit. And COVID was like a crazy time, as you know, and everybody kind of, life froze. But for me, it was the best thing that happened for me because I ended up in Kelowna, which was home for me where I was living before and operating my business. And I had a limited amount of ice available to me when some of the restrictions started to lift and you could skate in small groups. And that's when they announced the playoff bubble for the NHL guys that year. So as guys were kind of scrambling to get back on the ice and get back into shape, kind of, as you know, that was weird times. I got a call from Damon Severson, who I grew up with in Melville, Sask. He knew I was teaching and doing skating and all that stuff. He's like, "Hey, can I come skate with you, Jess? I'm going to bring a couple guys." And, what went from 2, 3 guys was quickly 20 guys within 2 weeks. And
Wow.
thing was like when the restrictions got lifted and they allowed for us to hop on the ice in like a large regular team practice setting with 20 guys. Some of the veteran guys who obviously are a big reason why I'm here today, truly, like Seabrook, Luke Shen, Shea Weber, all of the more veteran guys of that group, they asked me, like, guys have been loving the skill skates, the power skating skates. Can you come run our practice in a bigger group? And that turned into probably 2, 3 months of time together. And going through that, I was 27 and I wasn't even teaching power skate, running practices. And they were all my own drills. Like, I was running all my own stuff. And I remember them coming up to me saying, like, "We've never done this drill before. Like, is this your drills?" Like, I had my own experience and came up with my own ideas. And then as I was answering yes to these, I remember having conversations kind of later towards the end of it. Brent being one of them, he's like, "You're gonna coach in the NHL someday. It's gonna happen. It's a matter of time." And I like, I believed him, but I also was like, wait a minute, like, I'm not even doing skating anymore. I'm now running practices, and if I can do both of these things, like, maybe that's gonna make me almost a double threat if I could get an opportunity by having this skating and skill development background. And that was the epiphany. That was the moment where I'm like, wait a minute, maybe I should pursue this in a different capacity by having kind of the blended skill set to do both. And if they're signing up and showing up for my skates in numbers, then obviously they're giving me permission to believe that this is possible. And though I didn't have the visibility in front of me, I think that was honestly the moment the glass was shattered when I realized, okay, I can do this. I'm doing it on my own. Why can't I do it with a team?
That is so cool. Like,
Yes.
so, okay, now that you're in it and there's no looking back, like, we can get into the where do we go from here, but I'm from like a raising boys that are deep into hockey to, our husbands. What do you think is the most like under, how do you say it, like under coached skill in the NHL. Like these guys are, professionals, they know what they're doing, but like they still have to refine themselves. And you have to come in and teach these creature of habits different things. What is one like kind of commonality you see throughout different groups that you're like, this is what I'm going to go back to?
Honestly, I think that still like the skating skills that make some of the most impactful players, the most dangerous players on every team. Like that's something I see. And I think like being able to change direction, there's all kinds of different categories that, and different terminology we use now that 5 years ago and even 10 years ago definitely weren't even terms that, shaving ice and like different ways to come out of turns that, look a lot, from a fan's perspective, like that's the like, wow, fancy skill, but it's different types of edge control that I think with and without the puck, but mostly with the puck that I think there was a gap of, it wasn't taught 10 years ago. So some of the veteran players more towards my age, really, I feel like they're still adopting some of those skills and learning them on the fly. And then the quicker they, learn it and take the time to, I think, fine tune their skills, they quickly can pick them up. But there was a gap. And something that, like, when I was working on some of the stuff with the guys, I think that's honestly what made some of my sessions more attractive, was because they were like all of the young new age kids that came up with like pep skills and these hockey academies that now exist everywhere. They were getting all these skills, but there was a gap where like the old traditional skating coaches weren't teaching that stuff, or skills coaches just like shoot the puck as hard as you can, shoot a one timer. And now there's all these blended types of skills. And it's been really interesting to watch some of the youngest players dominate, like even in like San Jose, like looking at Celebrini, right? Like he can play the game at such a different, like in such a unique way and still dominate as a young kid. So it's pretty cool to watch, but also interesting to see, some of the gaps that do exist. And then obviously the need for the skating and skills coaches to be there still.
That's what social media likes to tell Tyler, that he's not a great skater. So
I'll make sure to like say something to him over the boards when I see him. You're a great skater. Don't let Kat tell you otherwise.
Please do. Please do. I love that.
Well, Kat and I both agree. You're not a skater. And you can take it whatever direction you want.
You know what? I would love that. He'll be caught off guard, and I'll attend that game, and I'll get that on camera. So thanks.
It's too good.
Something we always talk about on this pod also is like the human side of hockey and behind the scenes and everything. So that was something I was thinking of for you, getting to know your players so well and everything. Trades hit us all so hard. So how is that for you as a coach,
Yeah, it's, well, we didn't have any trades in Coachella in the 2 years in the American League that I was there. And obviously, like for me as a player, we didn't have trades. Like I wasn't making any money and playing in a professional league when I played. So that was kind of new for me, just going through, that period of, wait, this is, guys you've been coaching, and we traded away a pretty key power play guy for us. So, just one, it's a new opportunity for someone to step up into that role, but you build a relationship with them, and you feel the loss, like across the locker room. You feel the emotion of some certain guys have been playing, together for so long, and some live together, and kind of saw that kind of trickle through the team, and you feel it as a coach. But, that pretty quickly understand that the business of it's still a business, and you got to move on. And fortunately continue to see them, not always in favor on the other side, but this is what the game's all about. So you can kind of deal with it, just knowing it's the business side of that.
Yeah. Moving from the AHL to the NHL, what are just like the best things about being a coach in the NHL that we wouldn't know?
Well, I think the biggest difference between, like, for me, having gone through now the transition of being on both sides, like in the AHL, there's not, a huge gap separating American League hockey players and NHL players. It's a little different because you have the younger development players and prospects. So, but in terms of the schedule and the amount of practice time you have in the AHL to like hone in on your game and fine tune your game and work on your game, because there's so much more practice windows than the NHL. It's just like you're traveling, you're playing, As you know, it's like we're always on the road or when we're home, what's day in between. And those moments of windows are so fewer to practice. And I think what's been really interesting for me is like, obviously, we have to rely on video so much more to teach with players and video meetings, but just the amount of few repetitions the guys at the NHL level need to pick up something new or different or to apply to their game, and then like immediately the next night, like I sometimes catch myself, it's like those are the pinch me moments. You're like, it's that easy. Like,
Yeah.
so the sky's the limit, right? And I love that from the development side or from like the skating and skill side, because our guys are still very hungry and want to work on their game, and you got to find those windows to be able to like balance the work to rest ratio with the amount of games. But that was the coolest thing for me, is just not that guys in the American League couldn't pick up skills, but it was a longer process of watching them come through their development and fine tune areas of their game. Whereas like obviously these guys are the best in the world at what they do. And they still have, areas to improve, but it's pretty remarkable to see how just quickly they can translate new ideas and concepts, and the team can potentially have success as a result of it. So I've been loving that part of it.
That's awesome.
We got a lot of people asking about what you do for fun outside of hockey and how you relax. So is there anything specific in Seattle that you've been loving or anything like that?
Okay, I feel so ashamed because so many people want to know what my life's like away from the rink, but my life is like at the rink. And when I get away from the rink, I'm just a total homebody. I like to run and like I work out and do all those things. But yeah, Seattle, it's kind of gray and rainy throughout the winter season. I'm looking forward to the summer months to like hike, and I spend a lot of time in Kelowna in the summers, so being able to be outdoors and hike and run. But I would say typically I enjoy golf, but I need to work on my golf game. But that's like a hobby that I do enjoy getting out to do. But I don't have much of a life in hockey season. Do any of us really? Like
No.
we live at the rink. So.
Well, that might answer my next question, because I'm an LA girl and you keep saying Coachella and my mind goes, straight to Coachella or Stagecoach.
Yeah,
And
yes.
I was wondering if you had gone to any of those, but
Stagecoach. I got to go to Stagecoach. That was pretty awesome.
nice.
I like to travel, off season. I'm going to try to travel as much as I can.
Back to, since our lives are revolved around hockey, what is a typical like pregame routine for you look like?
Oh, this will be interesting for you guys. Okay, I get up really early, like 5 a.m. Typically run, do my stuff, take care of my own kind of routine, and then get to the rink. My meetings are always in the morning, run our power play, so my meetings are in the morning. And then after pregame skate, we have a window of 3 hours. I'm not a good napper to begin with. I never have been. I'm working on that, but I typically go home and like scroll on my phone. Like sadly, I just like online shop, but don't even buy anything. I just kind of,
Fill your carts.
yeah, it's like I try to check out, and honestly, sometimes I just turn on the Kardashian or something that's like completely checks me out of hockey, so I can kind of like create the separation of thinking about the game, and just relax. But then I only for home games I go to my hair girl. She does my hair before the games, so I usually spend like an hour and a half in her chair just like hanging out, and she helps me at least get to the game feeling good without the stress of having, the days where you're like, "Oh, of course it's a bad hair day, and the amount of time and energy it goes into getting ready. Like
Yeah.
as a woman, people don't understand that's more energy put into a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I usually go there, then head back to the rink. Then that's pretty much it.
Are there any?
I also call my grandmother. I FaceTime my grandmother every game day. That's kind of my way to
Aw.
connect with my grandmother.
I
She
love
watches
that.
all the games, and
That's
so
so-
it's been a kind of a special game day routine for me. And then I don't call her, I feel like, oh no, we're gonna lose or something's gonna,
So yeah, so
Bad
she
juju.
falls into the superstitions.
exactly. And I never used to be superstitious. Now I just call myself stitious because not on the
Yeah.
goalie level yet or anything.
I was gonna say, did you have any superstitions when you were playing? But no.
No, I'm not a very like, I was never like that. I kind of just needed to be the like goofball and have like a fun routine, kind of pick up whatever vibes everyone else was putting, and didn't like to like get in my head because then I felt like that didn't help me play good if I got too much in my head about everything.
With this new light shining on you, have you had any like celebrities reach out to you that have kind of maybe you've been a little bit starstruck or like have just totally like caught you off guard?
Um, Ye- Okay, well, so this has been kind of a running joke for a few years now. But Nikki Glaser has been, coined as I'm her doppelganger. We're twins. So her and I like chat back and forth all the time,
That's a
hoping to
great one.
catch her show. Yeah, she was like reenacting a skit on her show. One of her shows is with my suit, and I don't even know what she was saying. Probably, obviously, something hilarious, but she's been really cool to connect with. And just recently, like on their podcast, Kylie Kelsey and Kate Hudson gave a shout out, and that was really special, like surreal, because I'm like, what is going on? But
Yeah.
they're sports fans, and obviously in sports, Alana Mar, just like people, like female sports people are like really kind of coming together and celebrating this. But those would definitely be the two coolest. And I met she sings with Beyonce back at Stagecoach actually, and she was like super hyped up about this whole, gig and stuff. So she's been someone cool just in music to connect with as well.
Has Nikki made any jokes to you about playing you in a movie?
No, but we have talked about just like I think she wants to, play on some of the lingo of, what if, she could probably give a great pep talk and make it hilarious, but also something the guys would listen to. I want her to do one of our pregame reads when she comes to Seattle for her show next year. Like, there's no way she doesn't probably have the most epic pregame speech and read all in one.
That would
Make
be
it
amazing.
happen.
Yeah, you gotta make
I'm,
that happen.
I'm waiting for that to happen now.
Yeah, would be too good.
That's awesome. Well, we like to wrap up with a little quick shootout questions, we like to call it.
Cool.
So, what is your favorite arena you've ever played in?
Ooh. Okay, played and now coached in would have to be the Bell Center. I got to play there right before, actually towards the end of my career, right before a Habs game. And I grew up in a Montreal household, like little kids. So that was pretty surreal as a player. And then we had a really good game, thankfully, this year, our game in Montreal this season. But just to like, I got very emotional. I got emotional as a player, but I got even more emotional on the behind the bench this year. Just, you know what it's like in that arena, the chanting and the singing. And
How do
like
you hold it together?
they play Coldplay. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, how do you not just want to cry before the game as players?
I mean, we cried when our guys were in the Stanley Cup final there, and they would
Oh, I
play
can't
that.
even imagine. Yeah.
I cried, like, not cried bawling, but I got tears in my eyes every time I happened to be in my seats by the time the game started. Sometimes I wouldn't be, sometimes I would. If I was in
Cue
my
that song.
seats when that song came on, there were tears in my eyes every single time. It didn't matter if it was a nothing game. I was emotional, so I can only imagine you
Yeah.
on the bench there.
And you know how like the away coaches, I think both coaches, no, I think just the away have to walk along the ice to
Yeah.
the door. And it's always a challenge in heels, no matter what. Like I try to conquer that fear, but I do it anyways.
Yeah.
Just like hold on to the glass. But all of the fans, like that was so surreal. Maybe why I was so emotional. There was like young girls, older women, older men, like they were putting their hands up on the glass and like it was just like I was so touched by
Full
the
circle.
magnitude and the impact of how the Canadian kid in me was just hit. And yeah, I love it. It's so special, and it just obviously it just creates so much more meaning into the role, what I get to do every day, and knowing that hopefully this is really good for the game.
I'd be bawling actually if I were
Yeah.
during that moment.
But also walking across in heels in the ice, like, God, props to you. That's stressful.
You might be the first there too, in walking on the ice and heels.
The first crazy person to do it, but
Well, then, who was your favorite Canadians player growing up?
oh gosh. Well, as a young kid, I I looked up to Saku Koivu was the player that I was the biggest fan of. Um, that would probably have been the hockey player, the age, but that definitely makes me the age that I am, clearly puts into when he was there a long, long time ago. I can't really, celebrate the Habs anymore. There's still some players on their team that I still look, look to as great players, but
Yeah, you can't root for them.
no, not anymore.
Can you speak French?
Uh, no, my mom's French. I can like a little bit understand, but my
Yeah.
mom is a French teacher, and it's so sad that we don't have it fluently, but it wasn't offered in our schools growing up, so unfortunately it didn't get passed over.
Okay, what's the best meal you can cook?
Mm. I make pretty good lasagna.
Mm.
I've had better, but I think my lasagna is good. I can make good lasagna.
That's my favorite thing to cook.
Classic hockey player pasta meal.
What's your most used emoji?
um, Probably what's the most used?
You got to act it out too,
Let me look. I feel like I use a lot of them. I've really gotten into the Bitmojis, the ones you can create your,
Of
you know,
yourself?
yeah, because there's terrible outfits for women. Like
Yeah.
I have this like really granny looking suit and then like this little high blonde ponytail. Okay, the most common I would use is is this one. Why I don't know, or this one.
You want all the good vibes, all the good feelings.
I guess so. This must be like hope we win. Like this probably has something to do with game day.
Yeah, I love that. You kind of answered this, but maybe not because you got to stay up late for games. But are you technically an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird. I struggle post games. Back to backs are tough for me. I'm probably the only one that can fit on my seat, like in my seat with the
Yeah.
blanket, but I get up as early as I can and crush my work in the morning. I can't stay up past midnight.
Are you a matcha or coffee girl?
Coffee
And do
all
do
day
you,
long.
I was going to say, do you have any like specific pregame coffee needs that you?
I'm just into just black Americanos, but my favorite coffee drink, if I'm like treating myself, is a oat milk dirty chai latte. I call it like a nice hug. And I give it to people. I'm like, here's a hug. This will change your life, this drink.
That's
So
lovely.
make sure you get one.
I'm gonna write that down. Somebody has
Oat milk
to.
chai latte with a shot of espresso.
Okay, somebody
Sounds
needs to
delish.
text that to me because I always get to like a coffee place and I'm texting Jeff like, "What do I order? Tell me the lingo." 'Cause I can never order
That's all
for
I got.
myself.
I got nothing else for you. I don't know anything else about the menus.
That's funny. Favorite sport outside of hockey and what team?
Ooh. I mean, I'm very into tennis. I follow tennis. Sabalenka's my girl. I love her. She's the bomb.
Oh, that's cool.
But I think maybe living in California got me a little bit more into tennis because I can't play tennis.
Did you go to
That's so
the
fun.
tournament, Indian Wells?
Yeah, Indian Wells.
Yeah.
So thrilled. After that, I was like hooked.
Nice.
I believe it. I want to be a tennis player in my next life.
Okay, we'll skip down to the bottom. We have a couple fan questions, just two more.
Okay.
At Florence Crosby asked, what is one thing you've learned about yourself this year?
Oh, I've learned a lot about myself. That perfection is absolutely impossible. Not that that was something new, but I think you can feel perfect about, a meeting or, a game and still like there's so many unpredictable things that can happen that are out of your control. And like, so to chase that, it's like, very much not a sustainable or a great thing. I think like striving to do your best, but knowing that even your best still has unpredictable things that you can't always hang your cap and trust. I think that's just given me a lot more personal grace with myself to let go quicker after things don't work out, where I've always like tried to fix and solve, and that's not always doable. Just have to learn and move on and get better. But that's something that's probably was learned harder this year.
It's good advice for everybody
Very.
because, I think, and as an athlete, you're kind of in that perfectionist mindset. So
Right.
to switch it over and to realize, like you said, there's so many unpredictables.
I'll also say this is something that I really learned about the game, and I did not know this before, but more than ever, you feel losses way more as a coach than you do as a player. Not dismissing that players don't feel the losses because they feel it in their own capacity and all of them feel, losses differently. But as a player, former player to now coach, you carry losses so much differently and wear it way differently than, players. You have to turn the page the next day, whereas coaches, you have to like work through that loss and keep almost revisiting what that loss or that game was in order to improve and move forward. So you can't just like new slate, turn the page. You kind of have to carry it, unfortunately. And that is felt deeper as a coach. A lot more sleepless nights as a coach than I did as a player.
Oh.
Okay, last but not least, what would you say to 20-year-old Jessica?
Oh my gosh. 20-year-old Jessica. Gosh, I don't know. What would I say?
Where were you at 20 years old?
Yeah, I was
I
going to
was
say
in
what.
college. I was graduating college and I was 21. I would probably say trust all the unknowns and all of the things that are going to go wrong in your life are actually going to go right for you.
That's beautiful.
Because I don't think I would even be in this position had like my playing career not ended the way and as abruptly as it did. Like I was 25 when I finished playing and I could have kept playing, but it didn't feel right to keep playing and it ended for me not in a way that I wanted it to end. So I was kind of like faced with now what? And I, kind of organically fell right into the coaching role and didn't really want to do it at first. But I had a really good mentor who was like, you're made to coach, get back on the ice, just coach these girls how you would have wanted to be coached in high school. And thankfully he pulled me in that direction. But so many things went wrong in terms of how I saw it at the time, like failed in order to like put me on this path. And if I could go back and or told myself that at 20 years old, I would have trusted and had a lot more grace for what I was going through, knowing it was redirecting me down a path that I'm so thankful for now and cherish all of it.
Gosh.
We learned from. Yeah, I know, seriously. I was
Well, it's crazy, right? Because you can always connect dots backwards in life. You never can always make sense of things moving forward or as you're going through it, but it's so much easier said than done. But like trusting what you're going through, knowing like this is guiding me somewhere where I don't know. And sometimes that's painful, but just like trusting that it's gonna all make sense when it does happen. And gosh, I mean, I never thought I would have to move to Sweden and Germany to like start coaching pro hockey, but so it happened. And then to return back to Canada, thinking that like maybe it would just all happen here. All of those unknowns and like kind of paths that were very confusing and had really no clarity of where it was going. I just kept kind of following the next yes or the next thing. And all of those moments have, created this opportunity and something I never even imagined was possible until I was really in it.
Your story's been so amazing to follow, and thank you so much for telling us all about it. So we really appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. It's really cool to connect with you guys and just you get this more than anyone and live it wholeheartedly in another capacity. And I admire what you guys do because this game takes a village for everyone. Players, coaches, we're all in it together.
She's so cool. I could just chat with her forever. I feel like I can't believe like we're sitting here talking to the first female coach in the NHL. She's younger than both of us. It's so wild. She's so awesome.
She's so awesome. She's so cool. And just, like all of her stories and just even like the Nikki Glazer thing was really funny.
Oh, when she said that, I was like, totally, like everything. But she's so well spoken. Like I can only, as a coach, I mean, all I was doing as like a mother of kids who are coming into sports was like, can we clone you, and can you be the guiding light for all these young athletes coming in? Because her perspective, her poise, her just everything about her is so freaking awesome. She's badass, and I can't wait to see what else she does, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I mean, yeah, cloning her would be amazing. Just this season, just one of her on every bench would be, you know what I mean? It would be so lovely to see, because she is just an inspiration. And the amount of people that had not questions, they were just sending me, you know, like how she makes them feel emotionally watching her. It was, you know, I was going through our DMs kind of teary-eyed, you know, when we feel the same way. So
right. And everything we like watched about her, like, to get ready for talking to her, I was emotional watching it. And then getting to talk to her, she's just remarkable. Like, no wonder she's in this spot. And it's just a testament. I love her perspective on just like how she grew up, and she just never really saw a limit. And that's, I felt so drawn to that, because that's how I feel like I grew up. And I don't know if it was just like playing sports, and I was always playing with my older brother and his friends, and it was just like I never thought of limitations. And I feel like that is how she kind of has taken every stride in her life. And she said, you know, she hasn't really recognized it until she's in it, and she takes a step back and is kind of like, oh wow, yeah. Like I'm here.
I mean, she just gives the best advice. Just, you know, what she hit us with at the end there with the advice. I'm like, wow, you're speaking such amazing facts at us, you know, and it kind of reminded me just like of this opportunity for you and I saying yes to this. You know what I mean? Because it is kind of scary putting yourself out there and doing something that's, you know, uncharted, and how rewarding it is. And you and I talk every week about how rewarding this has been. And it's all from, you know, putting yourself out there and taking opportunities to the fullest. And so it's just kind of brought me there, and kind of, you know.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I was thinking of just like throughout her like talking and leading up, just like, you know, she's the first, and you think of all the first, like in the PWHL, the first girl to do the Michigan goal, the behind the net, just happened like 2 days ago. And I'm just like, you know, like she's gonna go in the record books. Like that's so cool. And I got to thinking, I was like, what has Jeff done? Has Tyler done, like, is he a first of anything?
Yeah, the one that comes to mind is the first outdoor hat trick at the yeah.
That's a big one. So yeah, that's like actually a big one. Jeff's first, the only one I could come up with, is he was the first goal overturned after they implemented the new coaches challenge rule, whatever year that was, which
that's above my hockey knowledge.
It's above your hockey knowledge, but I just remember when it happened, like they made a big deal of it. They're like, the first goal to ever be overturned by this new rule, Jeff Petrie. Like, if that doesn't tell his story.
Did they give him a plaque?
Yeah. No, but I just laugh like that's the first. But just, I don't know. The whole thing, that's just a joke. But
yeah, no, I love it.
She is inspiring, and for like she kept hitting not just for little girls but little boys too, like telling my boys, they always ask, who are you talking to today, Mom? And I was like, the first female coach that she coached for the Kraken, and they're like, she's awesome, we see her in all the highlights, and I'm just like, it's meaningful to every kid. It's just rewriting the norm, and it's just so cool. And now getting to know her.
Now we're best friends, so
yeah,
it's,
now we're gonna hang out.
I love it. It was just amazing to talk to her. So
yeah.
Really, I feel like we could have her on every episode, and we'd be very happy.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna have to run here. Jeff is playing his first game back in 2 months. I feel like nervous, jittery. They're out west, so it's the late start here. But I gotta go watch my guy.
All right. Good luck, Jeff.
Yeah, so you guys just thanks for tuning in to Never Offside. I can't believe we've made it to double digits. Follow, like, subscribe on all of your podcast channels, and listen to all of our past episodes, and just tell us in our comments on our Never Offside pod on Instagram what do you want to hear, who you want us to talk to. Nothing's off limit for us. So thanks for listening.
Thanks. See you next week.